Federale Democratica di Etiopia, dottor Nagasso Gidada.
His Excellency, the Governor of Napoli, Professor Andriano Rossi, President of the University, distinguished members of the university community, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at first to express my pleasure at being in Napoli once again after 13 years. Your city was my home for 6 months in 1983 as I wrote the draft of my thesis, the subject of which was the history of my people. I remember the warm hospitality and friendship that I was so generously accorded by the people of your beautiful city. More specifically, I wish to thank this institute for providing me access to its research facilities, and I thank all those at the university who helped me in my work. Last but not least, I wish to thank most deeply my friend Truilsi and his wife Paola, who invited me to Naples in the first place. I will always cherish their friendship. It is therefore most gratifying for me to be back to Naples and to this institute to renew all ties, to express appreciation for the friendship extended to me when I was here last under different circumstances, and to further solidify the already existing excellent relation between Ethiopia and Italy, between the Institute and our university. We are living in an age of dynamism. Not only is technology growing by leaps and bounds, bringing the world closer together, but our ideas, beliefs, and ways of thinking are rapidly evolving to meet the new challenges that our societies and indeed the world are facing. As we stand on the threshold of the 21st century, you in Europe and we in Africa both look to the future with the realization that the realities of today can be transformed dramatically and radically in a condensed period of time. Who among us expected the Cold War to end so quickly? Who imagined that Nelson Mandela would leave prison to become the president of South Africa? And more close to home, who expected Ethiopia to rid itself of dictatorship, embark on democratic path, building bridges of solidarity to the peoples of the Horn of Africa? The changes in Ethiopia since 1991 have been so profound and so radical that what we are witnessing in our country today is a veritable recreation of a country on a new foundation. A recreation which is a challenge not only to us Ethiopians who are the actors in this change, but also to those who have various affiliations with our country, including academics and scholars on Ethiopia. This is the matter which I wish to explore further today, because it is my deeply held belief that in the same way that we back home are reconstituting Ethiopia, you here in Italy have now the opportunity to rethink Ethiopia and to embark on new scholarship that is relevant to the democratization and the future of our society, and relevant to the future of the partnership between Ethiopia and Italy, between Europe and Africa, between North and South, as we enter the 21st century. Dear friends, I'm aware that North and South conjure up images and meanings, not only global in scope, but in a more marked way in our own societies, both in Italy and Ethiopia. In the Ethiopian context, North and South have meant traditional Abyssinia on the one hand, and non-Abyssinia Ethiopia on the other. What my country is engaged in today is basically the redefinition of Ethiopia and Ethiopianism, to embrace all the people that live within its geographical confines. Ethiopia and Ethiopianism today is not seen in the context or divide of North and South. It is the manifestation of belonging to the same family of peoples that inhabit the country, proud of their particularism, as well as of their shared identity on the basis of full equality, with no group having a better claim on being Ethiopian. That was emphatically not the case in the old Ethiopia, needs no more proof than what is made plain by the troubled history of our country over the last century, and then the civil war that almost destroyed the country during the 17 years of military dictatorship. The principles of self-determination, which is firmly entrenched in the constitution of the new federal Ethiopia, is designed to promote this objective in our country, aimed at ensuring full equality among our nations and nationalities, and at laying the foundation for a strong, united Ethiopia, equally protective of its peoples, and whose protection is shared by all. Unity in diversity is what describes Ethiopia and Ethiopianism today. You can be a good Somali and be a good Ethiopian. You can be a good Oromo, Amhara, Tigrayan, and Afar, and be a good Ethiopian. You can be a good Muslim, a good Jew, a good Catholic, and be a good Ethiopian. There is no sliding scale of Ethiopian values by which you judge yourself a better or not as a genuine Ethiopian as your fellow citizen. You cannot force people to stifle their ethnicity, ignore their languages, and accept to be, by pressure, assimilated into something else, which they are not. Forced assimilation and over-centralization has been the cause of our dilemma and crisis in the past that had to be resolved through an armed struggle that spanned decades. Ladies and gentlemen, the armed struggle have been over for over 5 years, and my country today is in the middle of a transformation. One can even say a revolution in its true sense. The first transformation is that from war to peace. This has been achieved by addressing the causes of conflict in the first place. The referendum in Eritrea resulted in the fundamental change in relation between Ethiopia and Eritrea from that of conflict to that of cooperation. Other political measures taken over the last 5 years have consolidated further the stability of the country. One important measure taken was the successful demobilization and integration into the society of over 300,000 former soldiers of the Derg army. The second transformation is the change from dictatorship to democracy. Between 1991 and 1995, my country was engaged in a transition process of far-reaching democratization of the society and the state. Numerous political organizations were born. Freedom of association and assembly, freedom of the press and movement were introduced. A constitution was adopted and a democratically elected government now administers the country. Ethiopia has also undergone the transformation from a centralized to a federal state. Decentralization and devolution of power in my country is the essence of democratization. This has meant not only the empowerment of local communities, but the use of local languages in regional government, regional legislatures, the judiciary, and the schools. Another transformation underway is that from a centrally planned to a market-oriented economy. We have been undertaking a series of measures to deregulate, liberalize, and privatize the Ethiopian economy. I must also mention the transformation of Ethiopia's relations with its neighbors and the commitment to change the sub-region to one of cooperation and integration. This required rejection of the siege mentality of the past and a fresh approach to our neighbors. Ethiopia, for long considered an enemy by the people of Somalia, is now engaged in efforts to bring the different factions of the country together. Ethiopia wants to see a peaceful and stable Somalia. We yearn also to see Sudan reconcile with itself and with its neighbors. I believe that the continued stability and development of Ethiopia, which is the most populous and centrally located country in our sub-region, will contribute to the future stability of the Horn of Africa. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, I have shared with you our aspiration and what we are trying to do in Ethiopia to build a new society and to write a new chapter in our history. I am certain that you are aware that all this is being undertaken in the face of many challenges. An important challenge has been that of mentality. For the former establishment, it has been quite difficult to reconcile themselves with the new reality, to understand that they have a share, only a share, in Ethiopia, and that they cannot lord it over the others as before. For others, the challenge has been the lack of experience to use their empowerment effectively. There are yet others for whom their own narrow mentality and vision has been an obstacle to giving unity a chance. Unity based on equality among the various nations and nationalities of Ethiopia. For all of us, beginners in the world of democratic behavior and practice, it has not taken long to realize that the building of a democratic society from the ruins of conflict in a multinational and economically backward country like Ethiopia is no easy task. So we do acknowledge that in our vast country we still have a distance to go to provide the level of good governance and the respect for human rights that we desire. Ethiopia's democracy is still in its beginnings. It is still immature. Yes, many parties exist. The list of small parties may be long, but a responsible opposition that plays by the rules of the game has yet to make its presence felt. The economic challenges that our country is facing are daunting. We do see good results in an average GDP growth of 6 to 7% annually over the past 4 years, and substantial increases in agricultural production that are fast making famine a feature of the past. But our country requires high economic growth rates for a sustained period of time if the living standards of our 55 million people growing at over 3% a year are to show improvement. Religious extremism and the continuing conflicts in neighboring countries, notably Sudan and Somalia, and in the case of Somalia, the absence of a state itself pose challenges to us in Ethiopia. We are seeking to build a tolerant, pluralistic society at the center of the Horn of Africa. We need to quickly address the socio-economic sources of extremism if we are to succeed. You can very well imagine the many difficulties that we face. Our approach is to confront our problems head on and address their root causes. We are committed to peace, development, and democracy and unity, democratic unity. These goals are not the aims of one group or party, but a reflection of aspiration of the majority of our society. Pursuing the path we are following is not, to us, a matter of choice. We have no other viable alternative. Ethiopia's future existence, as we know it, rests on the success of its democratic reconstruction and development. Dear friends, I would like to particularly address those of you from Italy, a country with which we have had intensive contacts and relations over the last century. When we look at Ethio-Italian relations, there is a natural tendency to look back and to recall the years of fascist occupation. But our contacts predate colonialism, and they grew most successfully in the period after occupation. Ethiopians and Italians may have been brought face to face by war, but it was in times of peace that the benefits of our relationship were recognized. The challenges before us today is, do we look at our relations as a colonial episode, the remaining effects of which will wither and die with time? Or do we look to a future expanded and strengthened relations based on our experiences in the past? Here again, I think the choice is one. Our two countries must look to the future, identify what brings us together. We should exploit positively the goodwill that exists between us to promote relations between governments, communities, businesses, institutions, and scholars. The Ethiopian community here and the Italian community in Ethiopia are important and living pillars for revitalized relations. If we just take business as an example, Italy is the first country with whom we signed a bilateral investment and promotion and protection agreement. A few weeks ago, we initiated an agreement on the avoidance of double taxation. As you can see, my country is readying itself to do business, and Italians, be they businessmen, scholars, or tourists, are very welcome. In conclusion, dear friends, a word to the academic community. You know well from our shared history that you have been well placed to understand our country and peoples, our complexities, our diversity, and our unity. Today, as we embark in Ethiopia on the opening of a new chapter in our country's history, your continued engagement with us is an important source of encouragement. Certainly, the new Ethiopia presents a challenge. It is a different configuration from the manifestations of the past. We believe that in light of this, it is necessary to come to terms with the new reality, to explore new concepts and approaches on the basis of which the history and the politics of Ethiopia are to be explained and understood. Many of you have invested much intellectual labor in explaining our country in the past. We call on you to continue your engagement, but in freedom, free of the constraints of dated thinking, free to explore the expanse of revitalized, empowered Ethiopia, an Ethiopia whose recreation on a new foundation demands a new intellectual perspective to rethink its history and the complex journey it has traveled to reach where it is today. Thank you very much. For appreciation and thanks for welcoming me here again and to bring strengthening of our relation between the Institute and our academic institutions in Ethiopia. I would like to present you a small gift to remember Ethiopia. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very kind. Thank you.
Maybe you open this one.
Yes, I will open it.
Okay. Yeah.
I will open it. Anche noi abbiamo preparato dei doni. Prego, yes, please. Perché il Presidente ricordi questa giornata. Yes, please.
Open.
Yes, I'll open it. E quindi pregherei nel frattempo il professor Ricci di venire qui da noi per presentare al Presidente. Scusate, ma devo aprire questo pacco perché è tradizione che si apra, quindi... Professor Ricci nel frattempo arriva. Yes, please. Okay. This side. Yes, should be from this side.
You know what this is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, you should
Maybe,
put the appropriate way. Should be
for your life. You can put your book on it.
È un lavoro tradizionale dell'artigianato etiopico.